What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. We are doing a live stream. Well, I'm doing a live stream today to answer your guys' questions about the app, fitness, nutrition, anything related to that. So if you guys have questions, be sure to put them in the comments or put a question box thing on Instagram, and I will get to them. How's everybody doing on this lovely Friday? It is amazing. It's very nice here, actually, in Michigan. So I live in Michigan, and it's been a lot of cold, but now the sun's finally out. It's warming up. I'm happy. Get outside, be active a little bit, which is nice because I've been cooped up all winter here in Michigan. So hope everybody's doing well. We'll get this thing going once I get a few questions here. Like I said, if you guys have questions about the app, about nutrition, training, anything really fitness related, ask them and I will answer them for you. So looks like we got one here on Instagram. Let me pull it up. Okay, so Boss Martin is wondering, so if I meet my calorie goal but not the macro goal, am I being compliant? Check-in is tomorrow. So if you are just hitting your calories, technically you're compliant to calories only, but with carbon, we really stress the importance of macros over calories. So I think it's great that you hit the calorie goal, but I think I would try to work at tightening up your macros and hitting your macro goals, and then marking compliant once you do that. So I would just mark non-compliant for now, because technically you're not in the green for all of the macros, and then work at it. Just work at your consistency with your macro targets. Figure out what foods you need to be including in your diet so that you are hitting those macro targets, because you can always build on that. You know, like calories is like the baseline. You know, that's great that you're able to hit the calories, but now let's move up a step and focus on hitting your protein and hitting your carb and fat targets on average for the week. So why stress hitting macros over calories? So the reason is each calorie, each macronutrient is going to have a different effect on your body. So protein in particular is a lot more thermogenic, meaning your body burns a lot more calories through the processing, the digestion, utilization, and all that kind of stuff of protein. So your body actually burns a lot more calories if you have a higher protein diet. So it's not like a even 1-to-1, you know, you eat 100 calories of carbs versus 100 calories of protein. They're going to have different effects on your body and also cause you to burn different amounts of calories. So you can't just look at overall calories. Calories are just energy. So food and macros do more things to your body than just giving you energy in terms of calories. So yeah, you got to look at the macros. The macros are important. Protein's important. Carbs are important. Fat's important. They all have their own unique things that they do in the body. So be sure to work to hitting the macro targets. When is the next release? We just had like a bug fix release, and so that was rolled out this week. And then we also we're kind of taking a step back and really focusing on making performance improvements with the app. So we're going to be doing a large, somewhat rewrite of things in the app so that it's more efficient and it's more performant for you guys. Because as you build up food items and use the app, you might notice that it might slow down a little bit. We want to fix all those types of issues before we start implementing new features and that kind of thing. Like, we don't want to make it more bloated. So we want to make sure that we have a solid base of performance in the app, and then we're going to build on that. So performance is our #1 priority right now and what we're focusing on with development. How can I get it to take my average of daily weigh-ins when I have my check-in each week instead of just one day? So the app does. So the coach looks at, it depends on the week, but let's say you've been checking in multiple weeks and weighing yourself daily. The coach is actually evaluating your weekly average weights over time. Even though when you check in, all you do is write your your current daily weight. That doesn't mean that that's the only thing the coach is looking at and evaluating. So it is looking at all of those other things. And so if you're on your first week, however, it's going to look at your start and end weight for that week, because there's really no data to look at outside of that. After your first compliant check-in, the app is going to start looking at, okay, what is your average weight the first week? What is your average weight the second week? It's going to compare those. When you go out to 3 weeks, it also depends on the setting. There's some settings where if you go out 3 weeks, the app is going to look at not only your average change from week 2 to week 3, but it's also going to take into account the average change from week 1 to week 2 to make sure that the overall trend is where we want to see it. So it's very sophisticated, and it will, so if you weigh in daily, it will look at that data, so don't worry about it. Just enter your weight as many times as you want during the week, and the app will use that data however it sees fit. So great question. All right, let's see. So Kirk, thanks for the love on Facebook. Appreciate you. Should I adjust my macros if I'm not attaining my protein goal? Been on the app since its release. Do you have any suggestions otherwise? So it depends on how short you're coming up on protein. If you are, I would say if you're still within the range that we allow you to adjust with the diet preference slider, there's really no harm in lowering that protein so that you reach your macro goals. But if you're eating even below what the lowest we recommend with carb, then I would really focus on making sure you're eating the right foods and really focus on getting more protein in your diet. So it depends, Kirk, but I would look at diet preferences in the settings and adjust the protein slider to see if you're within the range we recommend. So good question. Does carbon fit in refeed days when on a cut program? Thank you so much. So Brad, it depends on how you define refeeds. So some people define refeeds as like a higher calorie day, yet the rest of their week they take lower so that their weekly average is still on track with their weight loss goal. That's one way to do it. Another way is, you know, you have your other days stay the same, and then you just take, you know, a high day at maintenance and don't account for that. So then that overall week's average is actually higher than where you should be. So the app Carbon is going to work to keep your average where it needs to be. So it takes the approach of, if you want to do a refeed or a higher calorie, higher carb day, you can use the calorie planner. So you can adjust, let's say you want Saturday to be a high day, you can adjust Saturday on the calorie planner to be higher calories. And then the rest of the days that aren't unlocked will adjust to make up for that difference. So then you know, okay, I can still eat higher on that day, but since I'm adjusting the other days lower, I can still stay on track with my weight loss goal that I have set in the app. Because if you're not hitting that average amount for the week, you're not going to be getting that weight loss rate that you want. So you will, I would recommend using the calorie planner for sure if you want to do a higher day. Now, some people ask about, like, I just want a high carb day. With Carbon, we take the approach of calories that you're adjusting higher and lower. So you can't say, you know, on Saturday, I want to just have all those calories be from carbs and have it be a carb refeed. You can't do that in the app. But if you have the macro calories feature enabled in the app, what you can do is on that day, you can just make sure you're hitting your protein and your calories, and then the carbs and fats aren't going to matter as much, because with macro calories, your calories are going to be consistent across the board and not have rounding and issues with food labels. So there's a lot of ways to approach it. Hopefully I didn't confuse you too much. So Kirk, thanks. When should I have the most amount of protein according to my goal? So with Carbon, we automatically add 10% to your protein amount when you change it over to weight loss setting. So we automatically adjust your protein depending on the setting you're on. So if you're on mass gain, it's not going to have that bump of 10% with protein, or is it 10% or 10 grams? I can't remember. I think it might be 10%. But with weight loss, we are already automatically do that. So you don't need to necessarily worry about bumping it up, lowering it yourself. The app will do that for you. So set your base amount that you find sustainable, that you like within the app, as long as it's in the range, and then just go with it. And then every time you change your setting, it's going to adjust depending on what you actually need. Thoughts on the vertical diet? Jenny, I don't have too many thoughts on it because I have honestly not really looked into it much. I think it's very geared towards high-end athletes that need to really perform. So it's not anything like a general population person should even look into, in my opinion. All right. If I'm getting a lot of protein from plant sources like fake meat, peas, rice powder, should I get more than the default amount? It's up to you. So the default amount in the app is going to set you at what is really going to be, optimal for most people. So you don't have to worry too much about eating more, eating less. Just set your goal in carbon and follow the macro recommendations, and they're going to be right where you need to be. Let's say you set your diet preference for vegetarian, it's going to actually, on vegetarian, it actually lowers it a little bit. Now, some people get confused of why it lowers it, but we take the approach of sustainability and being able to be consistent. So a lot of people that eat more of a vegetarian style diet, they really struggle getting in a lot of protein. So if we bumped up their protein, because technically they do possibly need maybe a little more, that's going to just cause compliance to come down, because it's going to be even harder for them to follow their diet. So we prioritize compliance over what's necessarily optimal in terms of protein for vegetarians, and we lower it just a little bit so that it's easier to fit into the way that you eat. So if you want, you can bump it up, but I would just stay within that slider range. Anywhere in there, you're going to be pretty safe. So hopefully that answers your question. Are the recommendations for carbs total carbs or net carbs? They are total carbs. Always count total carbs, always, and just make sure that you hit a minimum fiber amount, each day. If you always count total carbs and then make sure you're hitting a minimum fiber, you don't need to stress or worry or think about anything else like, oh, this is a sugar alcohol, this is this, this is this. You pick an approach, you pick a way of doing it, and you stay consistent with it. And then over time you adjust that, and that's how you make the progress. There's not anything special about counting net carbs, counting total carbs. It's just you pick an approach and you stick with it. And as long as you stick with that approach, the approach doesn't matter much anymore. And the magic is more in the adjustments that happen week to week. So carbon will do that. What's the minimum amount of fiber? So we don't necessarily recommend a minimum amount of fiber in the app. I think that'd be nice to add in the future for sure. But I would say if you are a woman, I would say anywhere from, I would say like 20 to 28 grams of fiber a day. For males, I would say more like 30 to 38-ish grams a day. Now, sometimes that's difficult to get depending on where your calories are at with carbon and where your carbs are at. So another approach you can take is you can do it based on total calories. So a nice figure that you can use is for every 1,000 calories you consume, eat like 14 to 15 grams of fiber per day. So if you have a 2,000 calorie diet, you will want to get 30 grams of fiber in. So I think between those two figures, you want to be in that ballpark. So whatever figure you want to go with, you can do it that way. And it gets especially hard as you diet and your calories come down. And if you're a woman, you're not able to eat as much usually. So that's where people can really struggle. So I would look into making sure, you're eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and even like lower carb products. So I personally really like the low carb tortillas. I think they're El Banderita or something like that. They say like extreme on the package. They're low carb tortillas, and they have literally like 12 grams of fiber per tortilla. So they are an easy way to get in fiber throughout the day. So look for products like that that have a good amount of fiber in them. Also, another one is like Joseph wraps. I really love Joseph wraps. If you can find those in the grocery store, they are great. So those lower carb kind of foods that are carbs, but they're lower carb, those tend to be the higher fiber sources. So hopefully that helps there. Why does the app use start and end date after non-compliant check-in? Because your non-compliant week, that weight, it's not good data to use because you didn't eat the targets. So when you eat the targets, then we can actually be confident in that weight. So like if you overeat in a single week, and then we use that in your next week, that's going to take bad data into the coach and into the algorithm. So that's why we don't look at the non-compliant weeks in terms of data, because it's going to really throw things off. So that's why when you're coming off a non-compliant week, we're going to look at when did you start being compliant and your next check-in date. That's going to be what we're going to evaluate for data. And that just is another reason why the main goal should be being compliant. Like if you're non-compliant, the app is not going to work correctly. And if you're constantly non-compliant, you need to figure out a way to be compliant, whether that's maybe you chose too fast of a rate of weight loss. Like you want to lose weight fast, but then you don't like the calories that it takes you to. So bump those calories up by slowing down the rate of loss and being a little bit more patient. I think that's very important. So figure out why you're being non-compliant. This isn't directed to you specifically because I don't know, maybe you just have one non-compliant week, but if you're constantly being non-compliant, there's a reason for that, and you want to fix that root cause. And then the app will do its magic. If you're compliant, you're hitting the macro targets, you're being consistent, that's when the magic comes in with carbon. I love Joseph wraps. Me too. Sometimes I eat 2 of them a day. I just love those. Let's see. Some of these questions are too long. I can't even pull them up. How do I best input variations in training volume in the app to assist with calorie deficit? You don't need to. So the app doesn't need any training data to get the desired outcome. So with carbon, you set your desired outcome. I want to lose a pound a week, for example. The app is going to adjust your macros until you are losing that. So it is going to indirectly kind of know your activity level, because if you're not getting the desired outcome of losing a pound a week, your activity level and your macros are not in the right place. And what we do is we adjust the macros. So if you don't like how the macros are being adjusted, you adjust your activity, and then the app won't make as big of adjustments with macros. So it's kind of up to you how you want to split out activity level and stuff. But you don't need to stress about, I had more training volume this week, I need to eat more calories. I think that gets you down a slippery slope where you're tying what you eat too much to your output, and then that can lead to some poor behaviors, in my opinion. So I think just detach from those two, hit the macros in carbon, and it will get you to your goal. How do you recommend tracking something without a food label? It depends what it is. So yeah, it depends what it is. If it's like common food, like apples and bananas and those types of foods, typically don't have food labels, but that information is readily available, on any website or our food database. So you can just search for the food in the food database, and if it's one of those common foods, you're going to find it and you can track it that way. If it's something that's doesn't have a food label and it's not like something easy like a single ingredient food, let's say you're eating out at a restaurant or something, that's where it becomes a little bit more tricky to track. And the best thing you can do is try to, first look up the restaurant, try to find their nutrition information. If you're able to find it, that's awesome. You can use that information. And if you aren't able to find it, however, you can look for a competitor or an alternative restaurant that has a very similar dish, and then just assume that it's about the same macros. So you can do that. If those two fail, you still can't find it, you want to try to look at the meal and break it up into its individual components and track each individual component. Because if you're able to estimate each individual ingredient more accurately, you're going to have a better outcome in terms of being accurate with the overall meal estimation. So, try to break it out into the individual ingredients if you can. Say, oh, this has this much meat in it, and track the meat. Then, oh, this has this sauce on it. I'm going to look up this sauce and estimate how much of that sauce was put on it. And it had this much rice and that kind of stuff. So hopefully that helps you. It's difficult sometimes to track when you don't have food labels. So the more you can minimize that, I think the more accurate you're going to be with your tracking, the better progress you're likely going to make. So if you can do more home cooked meals, I think that's going to be more ideal. But you still have the flexibility to be able to go out to eat and fit that into your macros. You just have to be cognizant and careful that you're not overeating and you're estimating as good as possible. And also, if you're eating out very often, you're introducing a ton of potential for error. So every time you eat out, you're going to be compounding that error over and over and over again throughout the week. So definitely try to keep eating out to a minimum. I think if your goal is fat loss and you are trying to lose weight, I think it's important to minimize eating out, just because there's also a lot of hidden calories. Every restaurant puts a ton of oil and butter and that kind of stuff on meals. Even if the recipe doesn't call for it, the cook is pouring in a ton more oil than what the recipe calls for. So you just have to be careful. And it's usually a good idea to overestimate the nutrition information. So I personally, if I find nutrition information, I usually add like a 10% to that, and just so that I'm safe in terms of my estimation. So if you can overestimate your unknown foods, you're going to be more safe. Which fitness tracker would you suggest? I'd like to know how much I'm burning. None, actually. I wouldn't suggest looking at any of the fitness trackers' calorie burn information. So they are very inaccurate, and they will cause you to go crazy because you're thinking you're burning this many calories and you're eating this many calories and you're not seeing progress. I think fitness trackers are one of the worst things you can do in terms of looking at the calorie burn information. So definitely don't do that. The only benefit I see in fitness trackers is if you look at just the trend and not really care much about the overall number and the accuracy of the number, and you look at more of the trend, I think that can be useful just to know a general idea of, are you burning more calories than normal, or are you under burning? That's some useful information. Another thing is step count. I think step count can be useful as well to have an idea, and so you can keep it consistent, because as you diet, you usually just subconsciously move less. So if you can keep more of a baseline of steps in a day, I think that can be beneficial. But overall, fitness trackers I actually really hate because of the calorie burn information is very inaccurate. All right. Let's see. Kirk's got another one on Facebook. What are your thoughts on the carnivore diet, since I need to focus on increasing my protein? I do not like the carnivore diet. I think that fiber is good. I think that Fruits and vegetables are good, so I would never recommend anybody do the carnivore diet. And that also is probably not going to fit within the app. The most extreme kind of diet that our app will allow you to do is more of a keto-based diet, but I would never go carnivore. How is calorie floor determined? It's determined based on your lean body mass. So how much lean body mass you have. We have a number, a figure that is based on that, and it will recommend you reverse diet if you hit that calorie floor. So yeah, it's based on you, so it scales to you. Not everybody's calorie floor is going to be different within carbon, and so yeah. I know they aren't accurate, but which body fat scale would you recommend just to use for gauging trend progress? I like the Nokia Body Plus scale. That's the one I use, just because it syncs with my phone, and I can see that trend over time. I step on it every morning, and it just automatically goes into my phone, and I don't even really look at what the body fat and stuff spits out. But over time, if I look at my trend over time, I can see what's happening with it. So I think that is a scale that I like to use, but like you said, it's not super accurate. Don't put too much stock into that number that you see, because mine I would say it is saying that my body fat percentage is higher than what it actually is. So those scales go by your hydration status. So they typically use BIA, which is bioelectrical impedance analysis, and it basically sends this electrical signal through your body, and how fast that signal goes, that's how it uses that resistance of how fast it goes to back calculate where it thinks your body fat percentage is. So it can be pretty inaccurate if you are dehydrated or overhydrated. That's going to really change your results. So since I step on the scale every morning, I'm dehydrated in the morning, so it's going to show my lean body mass a lot lower than what it actually is, and that's what I've noticed as well. So and then also, like, if I'm retaining water, let's say I have like a restaurant meal and I have a ton of sodium and I'm retaining water, my body fat percentage will actually go down, and I'll be like, oh, awesome, I lost body fat and I had that restaurant meal, but it's very unlikely that that's body fat loss, that it's more just the hydration status. So keep in mind, it's not actually checking your body fat percentage. It is only checking your the resistance in your body, and then it's kind of back calculating where it thinks your body fat percentage is based on formulas. So yeah, it can be pretty inaccurate. Yeah, I like the Autosync scales. Makes it easier to focus on trend versus today's number. Yeah, for sure. And some of them actually, like mine, I might have turned it off, but you step on it, it tells you your daily weight, but then it also shows you like your trend weight. So you can have it show you what's happening with your trend over time, and that's really cool to see. A lot of people get too fixated on their daily weights and let that really dictate their mental status and how they feel, and I think that's a really bad thing to do. So try to detach from the daily weights as much as you can mentally by looking at trends and that kind of thing over time, and I think it's going to be a lot more beneficial. Kirk, thanks, Keith. I love the app. You are welcome. Thank you for being part of the community. Appreciate all the hearts on Insta. You guys are the best. If you are enjoying this, double tap it on Instagram, heart it up on Facebook, like it, YouTube, like it, that kind of thing. Helps get it out to more people. Are DEXA's lean body mass numbers in good range for accuracy? Depends on the population. So each population, each method is more effective in certain populations. DEXA, they used to say DEXA is, like the gold standard in terms of body fat accuracy, but it really depends on the person. DEXA also kind of goes by your hydration status, so things can be thrown off if you are under or overhydrated. If you want to really look at the trend, you're going to have to make sure you're doing it consistently under the same conditions. So you have to, same time of day, that kind of thing. That's going to help with the accuracy of it. Another good method is underwater weighing. It's really a pain in the butt, but that can be another accurate method. Overall, though, I think people put too much focus in these numbers in terms of body fat percentage and this kind of in weight and that kind of thing. Like, what's most important is, are you happy with the way you look, and are you happy with your progress and that kind of thing. So looking more visually is going to be good. So try to not stress too much about the numbers. Doing the keto version of carbon, would like to phase out of keto. What would be the best approach? So what I would do is I would increase the carbs all the way to the top end of the slider in diet preferences, and then do that for a week or so. Once you are adapted to that macro split, then switch over your diet preference to low carb, and then I would start at the bottom end of low carb or wherever your carbs left off with keto, and increase it, little by little each check-in until you are more adapted to the carbs. And over time, you can keep shifting diet preferences over to being more carbs. I think that's going to be the best approach, as opposed to like the Band-Aid approach, like doing it all at once. You're going to feel like garbage. So I would do it slowly by adjusting the carb on the diet preference setting and also your diet preference. How should I lift on a deficit for maximum weight loss? You should not. So lifting and fat loss and weight loss should not be tied together. Lifting should be based on what you want for your muscle mass. So do you want to have more lean body mass, more muscle? That's what lifting is for. For weight loss, fat loss, cardio is what you should be focusing on more to do that. Now, you want to still keep in you want to keep your weight training the same, but you don't want to do anything different with your weight training because you're in a fat loss phase, for example. Like, some people say, oh, I got to do high reps on my weight training because high reps burn more calories. That's going to help me lose more weight. No, like, that's going to sacrifice your muscle mass because you're not going to be training as hard as you would with more moderate reps. So you want to make sure that you have weight training be for what it's for. Have it be to build and maintain your lean body mass. Have cardio and macros be used for what it's used for in terms of losing fat. So if you're not losing fat, you're going to have to do possibly more cardio if you want to do that, or you have to reduce macros. So training, pick an approach that's based on your training goals and then go with it. So different methods of body fat give me different numbers, but they tend to move in the same rate. Yeah, it goes down 3%. Calibers will also be down 3%. That's interesting. I'm a hungry man. Give me more calories. Let's see. So I want to enter a mini cut. Do I enter fat loss in until I'm where I want to be, or is there another way I should do it? So a mini cut is just a shorter fat loss phase. So you're going to use or shorter weight loss phase. You're going to use the same setting you would for any other weight loss goal. So choose lose weight, and then you do it for 4 to 6 weeks. If you're doing a mini cut, that's usually a good time frame for a mini cut. And then, since it's a mini cut, you can be a little bit more aggressive on the rate of loss. So you can take that slider up a little bit, because the shorter you go in duration for your mini cut, the less chance of lean body mass loss while going a little bit faster with a rate of loss. So do the same thing as you would do for a normal weight loss, and then keep it to like 4 to 6 weeks, in my opinion. And yeah, so you don't want to do a really aggressive loss until you reach your goal. So if your goal is far away in the future, doing an aggressive loss and trying to get there is going to be very miserable. So keep a mini cut to a shorter duration. Let's see. What vegetarian foods should we eat for lean muscle gain for athletic body? You are going to want to eat. So the specific foods that you eat aren't going to necessarily give you the outcome that you want. You know, you have to make sure you're getting in the right protein, carbs, and fats and calories for your goal. So eat the foods that you enjoy. Make sure you're getting enough protein and also enough calories to support muscle building. And then that's all you really need to worry about. So there's not like specific magic foods that I can give you. How do we know which diet preference to pick, which is the most effective for fat loss? So diet preference it's your preference. That's all it is. So what do you prefer to eat? You pick that and you go with it. They're all going to give you the same progress. So it's basically a preference thing to fit the foods that you eat more often into your diet and make it easier for you. So if you have no idea, choose a balance, because most people probably fall within the balanced way of eating. If you have a specific preference, then go in and change it. But I would say default, we like to see balanced because it's a nice balance. Will my weight come back down after a period of overeating, gaining if I return to previous maintenance calories? There's a fat loss phase required. It depends. Yeah, it really depends. How long the period of overeating was, how much you gained, how much of that was body fat, that kind of thing. So it's really hard for me to give you an answer there. Some of the weight gained from a shorter period of overeating is going to be more water weight. So that will come off with going back to maintenance. But if you added body fat and your maintenance hasn't really changed, going to maintenance is not going to help take that body fat off again. So you would need to do another fat loss phase if you added body fat that you don't want. Can the level of intensity after a workout affect my weight the next morning? Yeah, for sure. So the way that it'll affect your weight is there's going to be, with a more intense workout, there's going to be more local muscular damage in those muscles that you worked, which causes swelling in that area. There's a little bit of water retention in that area. So your weight is going to be higher the next morning. So don't freak out after hard workouts. Weight is usually going to be a little bit higher. But if you are consistently working out and you're weighing yourself multiple times, you don't really need to worry anymore about it, because all that stuff evens out over the course of the week if you are weighing often and you're also consistent. So consistency is very important. The more consistent you are to your training and diet or anything really, the better off you're going to be. Can I build muscle on a reverse diet? Yes. If so, what's the best approach? I mean, any rate that you choose on the reverse diet setting is probably going to be pretty optimal for building muscle. So just do a reverse diet, and it will help put your body in an environment to add muscle, but you also need the stimulus. So you need to be training hard enough with weights and actually give your body a reason to add muscle. And I would say like 75% of people don't train hard enough to actually build muscle. They think they do, but they don't. And it's actually hard to build muscle outside of you're a beginner. If you're a beginner, you can pretty much look at a weight and grow. But once you're past that newbie stage of gains, like, it's going to be very hard, and you have to have a very conscious effort and consistency, and you have to push yourself really hard to be able to add muscle. So you have to have that environment that tells your body to build muscle. You have about 15 pounds to lose and enjoy resistance training. Would you prefer to keep? You would prefer to keep cardio at a minimum. If you have 15 pounds to lose, reverse diet setting is not going to be the right setting for you unless you have a really slow metabolism and you are unable to lose weight and you're eating very low calories. Then you need to take a step back, reverse diet, try to improve your metabolism, and then go back into a weight loss setting. But if your goal is to lose weight, choose the lose weight setting. And if you are not losing weight, then you can switch over to reverse and work on building your metabolism. All right. Great questions today, guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Let's see. Max duration for a cut. Will carbon prompt me if it's been too long? No, it won't. So carbon will only prompt you if your calories get too low. It won't prompt you if you've been dieting for too long. Because some people, if they have a ton of weight and fat to lose, like they could diet for years, you know? Like if you're hundreds of pounds overweight, you can diet for years without needing to stop dieting, you know? So it would be impossible for us to tell you if you have been going too long. And there's things that can kind of suggest you've been going too long, like your metabolism slows down to a point where it doesn't really make sense anymore. And that's what carbon will do for you. It will say, it looks like your metabolism is too slow for your given lean body mass. We recommend reverse dieting instead. So you could diet until that point. Otherwise, diet until the point where sustainability and compliance and stuff starts to suffer. So if you find that you can't stick to the plan, things are getting difficult, then maybe you're going to need to either back off on the rate of loss. You're going to need to maybe do a diet break, you know, at maintenance or something for a week or two, or you could do a reverse diet. So there's so many things you can do. We don't want to necessarily shoehorn people into a specific thing because everybody has different goals. All right. Do you recommend eating a certain percentage of daily carbs divided pre and post workout meals? Not really. I would just say make sure that you have a good serving of carbs before, especially before you work out. Post workout is not nearly as important for getting carbs in. So I'd make sure you have a good amount of carbs before your workout. You can, if you want to take a percentage, I mean, it may be, I don't know, 25%. It just depends on where your carbs, your overall carb grams are for the day. But generally speaking, make sure you have some carbs before your workout so that you can keep your blood sugar levels higher and feel your workout a little bit better. And then you don't have to stress about pre and post workout, making sure like an hour before your workout, you eat a meal, and then right after your workout, you eat another meal. You don't have to be that that strict with it. As long as you're getting, you know, a protein and carb rich meal, you know, 1 to 2 hours before your workout, and then 1 to 2 hours after your workout, I would say you're going to be completely fine and maximize really any benefits from carbs. So that's what I would do. A lot of people mark compliant if calories and protein are within range. Is that really suboptimal? What are the cons of taking this approach? Depends on if you have the macro calories feature enabled in the app. So if you have the macro calories feature enabled, doing calories and protein can be completely fine because you can be confident that you are keeping, like, your calories are being consistent day to day. If you don't have the macro calories featured enabled, then I would say it's a very bad idea to do protein and calories because depending on the foods you eat, there's going to be rounding in food labels. There's going to be a lot of issues there. So you're not confident that you're actually eating the right amount of calories for your goal. So Only if you have macro calories enabled would I recommend protein and calories. And if you have that enabled, yes, it's completely fine. There's really going to be no, downside. You know, I guess there would be one downside, and that would be kind of your weight is going to be a little bit more volatile. So if you are day to day drastically varying, the carb and fat ratio in your diet, your weight might jump around a little more. So that could potentially lead to suboptimal results if the coach is looking at that and it sees these changes and it thinks that those are body fat and actual weight changes. So there is a chance where protein and calories could backfire. But as long as if you have macro calories enabled, you can do protein in calories. I would also really highly recommend weighing daily, just because then that's going to help even out those fluctuations based on the varying carb and fat ratios. And if you do that, then there's not really much worry. Rebecca, how's it going? Rebecca's one of my clients. Nice to see you in here. Yes, macro feature enabled. Oh, great. When transitioning from maintenance to a calorie deficit, is it necessary to increase protein if you're already eating enough protein from deficit during maintenance? No, it's not necessary. You can keep it the same. I personally just keep protein the same regardless of the phase I'm in, and I just make sure that I'm eating enough at all times. So I'm probably eating more than what I'm definitely eating more than what I need. So if I change my phase to fat loss or whatever, I'm still getting plenty of protein. So yeah, you don't need to stress about changing it. Let's see. – 39% body fat, would like to reverse diet and build muscle. I feel as if I have minimal muscle. Would reverse dieting cause me to gain a lot of fat if I'm the conservative side? So it really depends. Everybody responds to a reverse diet a little bit differently. I would say if you're going conservative with the setting in carbon, the chance of you gaining weight is going to be lower. So it's going to hold your macros more often. So you don't gain too much weight. So I would say go with it. There's really no way to know unless you do it. But like you said, going the conservative side is going to be the safest approach. So I would do that. You switch to maintenance, do you still give a max allowed gain? If so, reasonable range plus or minus. So with the maintenance setting, you set your weight. So you set the maintenance at the weight you want to maintain. So it has your current weight. It's going to help you maintain your current weight, and there will be a plus or minus range. So it's I want to say, I'd have to look at what we did again, but I want to say it's like anywhere from plus or minus 1% of your weight or something like that. So there is a range, and it will tell you. So once you actually make a maintenance goal, it'll show you a range within, as long as you're within that weight range, it's not going to make any kind of calorie adjustments. And then when you fall outside of that weight maintenance range that you have set, then it's going to make an adjustment to your macros to get you back into that range. And one really cool thing about how we implemented that is, let's say you're outside of the range, we make an adjustment, you start trending back towards the range, but let's say you're still outside of the range. A naive approach would be making another adjustment, because you're outside of the range. But what we look at is, we're looking at your trend. Are you trending back into the right direction? If you're trending back into the right direction, you actually hold your macros steady, because you're likely going to fall back in that range. So it's really smart on how we implemented that feature. Had no clue you lived in Michigan too. Yes, finally a warmer weekend coming our way. Yeah, it's very lovely. I can't wait to go out and walk today. What part of Michigan are you from, Rachel? All right. Uh, what advice do you have if I don't want to lose any weight but change my body composition? So that's tough because you usually it's very hard to do that because what you're doing is you're losing fat and building muscle at the same time, which ideally, you know, that is going to be the ideal scenario. Everybody wants to do that, but it's also not practical for a lot of people unless you are very overweight, a beginner to weight training, have been eating a really low protein diet for forever and are just switching over to a high protein diet. Uh, it's really those scenarios, or you're coming off of like a layoff of training and now you just started training again. It's those very specific scenarios where losing fat and building muscle at the same time is going to be practical. So I wouldn't recommend you try doing it because most people say they want to do that, then they try to do that, then they make zero progress. So work towards one. You know, what is your main goal? What would you rather be leaner, or would you rather focus on building muscle and try to put all your energy into that goal? Be more specific, you know, put all the energy into that goal, and then go to the other goal, you know, because with carbon, I mean, you could do the maintain setting, you know, that's going to help you maintain your weight, but who knows if you're actually going to be building muscle and losing fat at the same time, because that's up to so many other factors. So I would recommend you do one or the other and not spin your wheels with that. 173 at 16% body fat. So yeah, I mean, what's more important to you right now? Being a lower body fat percentage or building more muscle? You know, one way that I recommend people kind of approach it is probably lose the body fat first, get down to a body fat percentage that you are more comfortable with, and then build from there. You know, focus on building from there. And then once your body fat starts creeping up to a level that you're uncomfortable with again, then do another cut, and then kind of back in those phases. And the more you do that over time, the closer you'll get to your goal. If I was dieting and then just purchase carbon, should I use maintenance or reverse diet when I sign up? So if you are done dieting and you are happy with where you're at, most of the time you want to do a reverse diet because when you diet, your metabolism slows down. So you want to make sure that you are bringing that back up to normal levels. So it depends on how long you dieted for. Like if it's a very short diet that you did, you might be able to just go to maintenance, but it really depends on where your current estimated maintenance is at. So if that's low and you can't see yourself sustaining that, then maybe I would recommend the reverse diet setting. Great question, Matt. All right, I have time for a few more questions here. So if you guys have some final questions for me, put them in either the question box thing or the comments, and I will answer them. If they are too long, I am unable to see the whole question, I can't really answer it. So I apologize to the people that I didn't get to your questions. They were too long and I couldn't read them all. Let's see here. Every time I do this live stream, I like almost lose my voice. So I have to drink more water. Thank you. You are welcome. All right, maybe I can scroll up, see if there's any questions in the comments. If you guys have any more questions for me, make sure to put them on here and I will answer them before I go. Looks like I got most of them. When setting your activity level, what would be equivalent to moderate, high, etc.? It should tell you, Brittany, so there should be descriptions on what those are. Laura, you had to log out. Will this be saved today? You're probably gone already, but yes, all of these live streams are saved. You know, if you go to our YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, you should be able to find all the previous live streams. So no worries if you miss it. You can always watch it later. Will carbon adjust protein macros up for higher age entered in settings? No, it doesn't. We don't currently change it based on age. It goes based on your lean body mass. So if you have less lean body mass, you're going to need less protein. Yes, as you age, you might need a little bit more protein because you become a little bit more resistant to the anabolic response to protein, but we haven't factored that into the app because that really only kicks in like for people that are pretty old. So the app doesn't have that and doesn't need that. If I'm doing fat loss, should I weight train, and how often stick to doing more cardio? So if your goal is fat loss, you definitely want to weight train just because it's going to help you maintain more lean body mass as you diet. So if you just try to diet without any kind of weight training, you're going to be losing more muscle as you diet, and you're not going to really change your body composition as much. So you really want to have weight training in there to help maintain your muscle mass as you diet. The question of how often should you do it, that's very individual. Whatever you're doing now, which sounds like none. So going up from there is going to be pretty easy. You know, start out with maybe 3 days a week, do that and see how the progress is going. And if you're not making enough progress and you aren't noticing enough fat loss, then maybe bump it up a little more. But you don't want to jump from doing 0 weight training to like 6 days a week because you're probably going to overtrain. So gradually work into some more weight training. And you can also do cardio too. So cardio can also be used as a tool for fat loss, burning calories. So cardio is very useful as well. So put in some cardio based on where you want to be doing it and how active your life is. And then carbon will make up the difference and figure out where your macros need to be. What is your advice if I want to shed fat with minimal muscle loss? Does high carb, low fat work? And what rate of weight loss? So if your goal is to lose as much body fat as possible, maintain as much muscle mass as possible, you're going to want to make sure you're eating an adequate amount of protein. You want to make sure that you are optimizing your weight training. You want to make sure that you are not trying to lose weight too fast. And then also make sure that you're prioritizing your recovery and that kind of thing. If you're doing all those things, you're going to shift that weight loss to be more fat loss. Now, every time you diet, you're likely going to lose some lean body mass. It's really difficult to not lose any. But if you're really overweight, you could diet without losing any lean body mass. But if you're more lean, the risk goes up for losing lean body mass as you diet. So yeah, my recommendation is make sure your training is really on point and optimal, and make sure you are not too fast on the weight loss. With carbon, maybe take the slider all the way to the slowest rate of weight loss for you, and that will help you maintain more muscle as you diet. You could also maybe throw in some weeks at maintenance here and there, diet breaks to help break it up a little bit, and that might help mentally, but it's not necessarily going to help you retain more lean body mass. So hopefully that helps. I think I have time for one more question, and then it's going to kick me off here. So if there's one more question you guys want me to answer, let me know. Let's see. Trisha, thanks for answering the questions. Just subscribe today. Thank you for subscribing. We appreciate you. Let us know if you have any other questions. Our support staff is very helpful. If you ever have questions with the app, you can reach out to them at support@joincarbon.com. Send them an email. You can also send a request in through the app. So in settings, there's a support setting, and you can click that, and then it'll send an email to them. Another helpful place is the Facebook group. Like, that's super helpful for people. So be sure you are in the Facebook group, and also join these live streams because we answer ton of questions for you guys. I'll finish it out with this one from Denise. What is your recommendation on frequency of diet breaks? So I personally don't do diet breaks, and I personally only recommend diet breaks if they work for you mentally, like if they fit with your mental model of everything and your personality. I see a lot of people struggle with diet breaks because they're able to, so they get that break, but then they don't stay in check with their macros. They go overboard, they gain body fat, then they have to diet again and get that weight off. So I see a lot of people yo-yoing in with diet breaks. They'll be good for a week or two, then they use the diet break and say it's a diet break when they actually are off their plan. So I personally don't like diet breaks, actually. Now, I'm not saying there's anything against people that do diet breaks, but I personally would rather straight diet, at a more moderate level, get to where I want to be, and then change my goal and work from there. So, but it's up to you. It's up to everybody else. The research, the typical way they do it in research studies and how people implement it is usually like every third week or every fourth week, they'll do a week at maintenance, a week at estimated maintenance. And that's how people typically do diet breaks. But like I said, I do not do diet breaks. But yeah. All right, guys, appreciate everybody tuning in. You guys are the best. Thanks for all the great questions today. I'm going to hop off. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. A little bit about Carb and Diet Coach. It's a nutrition coaching app. If you don't know, it's a nutrition coaching app that'll help you reach your goals. There's a built-in food tracker. So a ton of support with our Facebook group. If you guys want to subscribe, if you're not, download the app from the App Store. We're available on iOS and Android. You can go to your App Store, download Carb and Diet Coach, sign up. It's only $9.99 a month. You can actually get a cheaper rate if you sign up for longer. So if you can commit to a year, you'll get a little bit of a discount. And so appreciate everybody. And we will catch you at the live stream next Friday.